Hey, our gear is way better.
We can always argue. That was like Siri.
What the fuck?
She said in the background, "I cannot help you with that."
That was Enrique.
Sorry, I kind of went in medium rest.
This is what
media
happens.
rest.
This is what happens when we talk Deadpool off air. It gets heated. It gets crazy.
So really quick, let's just do a quick episode because we've got a hard out.
Let's go. I got a hard on. Let's do this.
This is a special 30-minute episode. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay,
I'm going to talk about something that I
don't like to talk about.
Yeah, I really don't like talking about it, but I think it's important for us to
you
talk
don't like morning people or morning or people?
That's a thing. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Now,
I don't like mourning people either. I hate it when people die.
Well, we won't mourn you when you leave. This is that fifth episode now that you're in with us, and you still haven't left. Leave, Doyle. Go.
I can't mourn him. He's still here.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
I'm not sad about.
No, but all kidding aside, dude. Here's a topic that I thought I never wanted to talk about, but I do want to talk about politics. And why do I want to talk about politics?
What?
Politics
Because it's going so fucking weird right now.
Sure. No, it's
There's
not.
things that are happening that I did not expect to happen.
I expected it.
I'll be quiet. You expect nothing.
You're a cynic.
Now,
I am a cynic. I'm a big
as of this recording, which is on Thursday, July 25th, and this comes out this Saturday.
Sure does.
Biden has backed off. He's not going.
I'm voting for Biden.
I know. I'm still voting for Biden.
He got my vote by quitting.
I'm gonna tell you what though. He should have your vote for quitting, because you know what he did? He did what Trump can't do, what he won't do. And he showed like the Republicans what's wrong with their, like, they need to just fucking, like, against every principle and every moral they supposedly had, they still very much are backing like a person who is the antithesis of everything they, like all the Reagan like Republicans used to.
All right, I'm bored.
No, don't be. You brought up politics, you motherfucker. This is your fault. If you don't want to have this conversation, I want to talk about Jedi. I can tell you why. Like, I think George Lucas was right about like his Jedi.
You are a rude,
there we go.
terrible person.
Wait.
I'm on the wrong show.
Okay, I got a question.
What's up?
Okay, I'm totally gonna talk both at the same time. Are the Jedi the liberals and are the Sith the conservatives? Is that what this is?
No, I think it's actually the Jedi are the conservatives. If you think about it,
But the Jedi believe in aid, in helping people.
No, fake aid, just like a conservative.
They're okay. You're looking at it wrong. The Jedi are not conservative or Republican. They're basically like the UN. They're supposed to be like there's the ones who are supposed to they're supposed to be like neutral and go into hotspots and save everybody, but they also have a dogma of like neutrality to some degree.
Yep.
The problem though is that George Lucas specifically said, I've sent you the clips, guys, where he says that for him, Star Wars, the essence of Star Wars is showing how good people believe that they're good can become bad, and how they give away freedoms and democracies in lieu of that. And that's what happened. The whole Clone Wars cartoons were all about how the Jedi were fighting a war, and all of the different Jedi went through these different story arcs questioning it. Like Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi all had moments where they were like, why are we fighting this war? We shouldn't be. But down to it, they ended up doing it. Okay. So they are supposed to be the UN, my guys. But anyways, Biden did what he couldn't do, and he left. And that's a very patriotic thing he did. And that's what he has my respect for that. I don't care. You guys can talk all the shit you want, but he has my respect for that. Like, you know, it took a lot, and I know there's all these talking points that, they should have told us years ago, months ago that, you know, whatever. But you know what? The fact is, when it came down to it, he stepped away. And I tell you what, Trump will never do that.
Nope.
No.
He would never. His ego is so big, there was no way he would step away.
But let's not virtue signal Biden for stepping away.
Oh, here we go.
He got pressure from everybody to step away. He wasn't going to step away at first.
But of course not. And mind you, any leader like shouldn't, like, you say, hey, you know what, you're not ready for the job, you should leave. And if you leave, okay, you're right, I've gone. Dude, come on.
Wait, but here's my issue. We've been telling him to step away for like 2 years on this show.
But I've been telling him to step away before his first term.
Thank you.
Representational government is all about like your representatives taking how you really feel, synthesizing it, and then converting it into a message for the people that we don't talk to directly. That's what representational government is.
Which is that is a fair assessment. But this is what I mean.
Hold on. Here, let me get to the point. The point is this, though, is that like we've been saying it because I can say for me, I didn't think 2 years ago he should have stepped away. I thought, you know what? I still thought he was the right person for the job because he's not the only person making those decisions. The buck should stop with him, but but you know what? He's part of a team, and I believed in the team. And there's a lot of things they did that I believed in. There's things that I hated, but anyways, my point is this: when it came down to it, and yes, it took a while, but when again came down to it. Like suddenly, like the representational government stepped in. They we're talking all the people of power within, your whatever. In my case, the Democrats said, "Look, you need to step away," especially after seeing that terrible debate. Like there was just no hiding it anymore. There was no way. Like you cannot do this job. We're gonna lose because of this. Like they knew the writing was really on the wall.
Yeah,
and there was no. And so he could have done two things. One, he could have been like, "No, I'm still staying." He could have held on, and they would have fractured the Democratic Party, and we would have lost. And because Trump had all the momentum, but instead he said, "You know what? Okay, I'm stepping away," and he did. And honestly, it's reinvigorated the party. It's reinvigorated this movement, and people are excited. And I'm for that.
But you're missing the bigger picture. Okay, see, if you're biased for
Biden.
No, if you're biased for Democrats because you believe in their politics, then you're going to look at one side and say everything they do is bad. But here's the problem. Neither side has done great work in the last few years. And that's the point. The point is, I don't think since Obama got in on his first term, have we had our government govern us well. Things are more expensive. Things are out of control. The society has gone down. Inflation. Like people are unhappy. Like society has gone bad. And if we try to act like, oh, well, this side is better than the other side, both sides have been in office since. They both had a chance to do better.
It's kind of like that meme where it's like there's Dory and she goes, "Oh no, the Republicans are not working. Let's go for the Democrats," and then they vote for Democrats. The Democrats are not working. Let's go for Republicans. Well,
yeah, they're both crap.
It's a circle.
I'm still waiting for you to tell me what's the point I'm missing because, you're not telling me anything.
You're giving them a pass.
I'm not. What I'm saying is that we had 4 years of Trump, and during that time, people have romanticized that time as if we were better. We were not that much better.
Okay,
off.
but see, here's the problem, Enrique. You keep going back to Trump.
Okay,
I'm not talking
I can
about
go farther back if you want.
I'm talking.
I can tell you.
If you go back to the first reign, the first term of Obama, there were a lot of things that were promised.
Yes.
That the country started to decline from that point. And here's my point.
Yep.
The overall government has been doing a bad job.
8 years prior.
Wait, hold on, let me finish. When do we as a people start to hold our representatives more accountable to doing things for the betterment of our country? Because if we were doing job performance reviews for everybody in the government, do you really think that there's anybody in the government who's doing their job to a passable standard?
So I'm going to say that you're missing the point because the fact is that you only have to look at the shift, the back and forth in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. That has changed in the past 20 years. It's changed based on your sentiments. But unfortunately, what that means though is that it makes it harder for laws to be passed. Now, I'm going to go farther back. You bring up Obama in the first 4 years, but remember he came off of George Bush's Jr.'s presidency, and that's when shit went down. Like from year 3 and down, there is a clear decline in jobs, in money, in the stocks, all of it. And so when Obama was putting, the first year was him just trying to raise all that up. Remember?
I'll give you that.
He came in at a time when like they were already bailing out big corporations, and Obama had to carry that over.
I'll give you that.
So ultimately, when he left office, things were much better. But you know what? That's not the narrative that you're going to hear. But of course not, because people are going to tell you that it was bad. But you know what? How are we going to hold them accountable? We hold them accountable every 4 years when we vote. And you know what? People in the House of Representatives, people in the Senate, constant shifting. Because there was a time when the Democrats had the Senate, and they lost it. They haven't had it in since since Obama. They haven't had it, right? I mean, that was the whole narrative at the time. Is like when all of the houses were aligned, and at a time when the Senate and they had a Democratic president, and yet they still couldn't pass. They couldn't pass a lot of the different referendums and forms. Well, you know what? Because that's how government works. The idea is that the minorities should have more power, more say in the government, because that's how it was set up. But guess what's been happening since then? Since then, they've taken away a lot of those checks and balances. The minority doesn't have the power as much anymore.
Here's the question. We don't write those laws. Who has made it so that those checks and balances are gone? They did it to themselves so that they could acquire more power. We have had congressmen in Congress for 40 years doing terrible jobs in their regions where the taxes continue to rise and these people continue to make more money.
Okay.
However, when do we ever have any sort of accountability in what they do as a job? And I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican. I'm talking both. This whole thing of being bipartisan, sometimes that is the biggest crock of crap, because if you're supposed to represent one side or the other, and then you have these bipartisan bills that are not supposed to benefit you, but somehow behind closed doors you can have a relationship with the other side that are now somehow making the product that you somehow own cheaper so that you can make more money while it costs me more money, then screw you, because you're screwing us over. And that's what my point is. Not so much to I believe in democracy. I believe that we can be a great country. I believe that if we have the right representatives, that our government could do a much better job than what they're doing. What I'm saying is the people, why is it that we had to pick between Hillary and Trump? Because that's who they chose to put in front of us and said that was our only options. Now, I was one of those people who was like, I think Bernie Sanders is a better candidate than Hillary Clinton. But a lot of people were like, no, Hillary. And I was like, she's not going to win. And sure enough, she didn't win. Remember, the only reason Trump got in is because Hillary was so bad that we were willing to vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. So that is not my fault, because I had a person who had a track record who was a better candidate than Hillary. On paper, civil rights, their track record, everything. But for whatever reason, they put this heifer in front of us, and I wasn't going to vote for her, so I voted for Jill Stein, because I wasn't going to vote for Trump either. And I know that was throwing my vote away, but as dumb as that was, the next day everybody was trying to be like, oh, you voted for Trump. You voted for Trump because he aligns with your beliefs. I was like, no, I voted for a woman because give her a shot, right? But the problem is that we don't get the opportunity to vote for anybody but the two main parties, the two main candidates that they broadcast and they social engineer to be the winners no matter what. Because there's no way that if America is this tired of the two parties that we never just decided to vote for somebody independent.
Well, originally it was the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, right? Is that the original ones or the Loyalists?
It changed. It all of this changed around the time of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Okay,
that's when it changed.
So let's just touch base real quick. In order to be a candidate for presidency, you got to be a natural born citizen. You got to have a minimum age of 35 years, and you have to reside in the United States for at least 14 of those years. Correct? From there, you have the primaries and the caucus and all that crap, which I don't know much about that shit. But that's basically where you're going out and you're trying to get people to vote for you. Correct?
Yeah.
Then you have other people that are like, let's say in this room, if we had the ouch party, it would be us three trying to get the nomination of presidency. So we're out there talking shit and doing whatever we got to get the nomination. Then our fans, the Squid Squad, would come around and they would vote on which one would choose. Then because this is being more logical, Enrique is winning the campaign, right? So now he's our nominee, and we decide that he's the one we drop out, right? And then we're going up against Keeping Up with the Nerds, and they choose Renee. And Renee is their nominee, right?
We should do that.
That'd be hilarious. Renee, we have an idea. Anyway, so those are the only two, but we never hear from any other podcast. We never hear from anybody else. It's just those two. The system is set up in a way, and this is my opinion, Enrique, correct me if I'm wrong. It's set up in a way where those are your only two real choices. Any third party is a throwaway of a vote. because they're never going to get anywhere. Ross Perot never got anywhere, and he kept on going over and over again. Who's the other one that's always around that just didn't do it? Nader, Ralph Nader.
So all of this, the reason why it's like that is because at the time when the Constitution was being ratified, we were trying to not be like Britain. Okay, because in Britain, your prime minister.
It's Britain, bitch.
Right. I mean, obviously there were kings, right? There were kings, but even then, you had a main person who was you had a person who was like the subordinate. Well, no. Who was the subordinate of the king of the monarchy? They were the ones who did a lot of laws. The kings were the final say, and eventually that evolved. But ultimately, what happened is. Let's just look at the way the UK does politics now. You have a prime minister who's not necessarily voted on. You vote for the party, and the party that has the most votes gets to decide who their prime minister is. Okay, so you don't necessarily vote for the prime minister; you vote for the party.
Right.
So in theory, it's not a binary choice. Like it could be a bunch of one party can come out of nowhere and become like the main person, and then if they get all the votes, then the one they choose becomes the prime minister, right? But over here,
Isn't that what happened with Hitler?
Yes, to some degree, that's what happened to Hitler. Now, the thing with the two-party system was, like you said, federalist and anti-federalist. It really came down to two people, and so we do have other parties that come in, and in theory, they should have some opportunities to go in, but they don't, mainly because of how money works, because we are a kind of hybrid capitalist, representative, society. And so because of that, it's the money that kind of controls all that. So yeah, so there is a lack of choice because of it. When it comes down to it, that is a big issue. But
simple solution.
When it comes to like people who've been in power for 40 years and whatever, the problem really is more simpler, is that there's some places that have more control in their local politics than they do in others, and gerrymandering and changing like localities is what keeps them in power. So right now, because the Supreme Court is like heavily conservative, they've basically just shot down a particular law that was going to have certain municipalities change their voting localities or whatever, and it's basically disenfranchise certain groups. Disenfranchise meaning not allowing them to vote, or making it harder for them to vote, and lumping people into like different classes. So what happens then there is that all you have then is one person within that power who can scare these groups of people to vote for him, and that's how that person stays in power for 20, 30 years.
But simple solutions is checks and balances. First and foremost, you should only be able to run for president with so much money. You should not be able to buy excess amounts of television time. Everyone should be running under the same plane of existence. Here's the reason why. Because if you're all running under the same premise and you can't spend more than a certain amount of money, then guess what? We will see how good you are at the resources you have to manage. So that's a very simple solution to, I got $1 billion, so I can run and I can be on everybody's channel and I can slander everybody on TV 100 times a day and you only see my ad once. That's as simple as it gets, number one. Number two, you mentioned the Supreme Court being landslided. How come the Supreme Court can't be split down the middle, where you have to have enough of each, that there has to be an equal amount? Because if you did, then they should be, and this is what I mean, obviously in an ideal world, if it wasn't for the corruption, you have half Democrat, half Republican. So then now if there's an issue, you're voting on what's right.
But there would be no tiebreaker. You would have to add another one from a third party. That's my opinion.
Which would be great.
The issue with that is that ideally Supreme Court shouldn't identify as
any
party or conservative. That happens based on their voting records, and obviously for obvious markers we can but from a neutrality objective perspective, you're not supposed to be able to say this person is conservative, this person is liberal, but obviously we're not dumb. We can see in how they vote and what their leanings are towards. in order to make that what you just said, Doyle, where like we would then have to remove the veil of that and just agree that there is a conservative side and there is a conservative side and there is a liberal side. Now, the reason why that probably would be difficult is because whenever you confirm somebody, they have to go through these the Senate like interviews. I forget what they're called, but and so the idea is that they're asked questions. How would you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And the idea is that it's supposed to give an air of objectivity, where you have Democrats and Republicans on both asking questions, right? But the second that you remove that, then you have to basically say that this thing is not valid, doesn't exist, and I just don't see that happening. It would be cool if they did that.
It just reminded me of something though. When Obama was president, he tried nominating a few candidates for Supreme Court, and the Republicans cockblocked them the whole way.
Yeah.
Now, when Trump does it, they fucking bend over backwards. Like, no, it's okay, it's fine, you can do it. They had said before, and I quote, paraphrase, not quote, I should say. They were like, it's not tradition for a president to choose more than one candidate.
Yeah.
But because Obama, right?
When it served them.
When it served them. But now when it's Trump, oh no, it is his obligation and his duty for this country to choose. It's like, dude, how clear is it that you're being fucking a hypocrite and then you're still okay and people are still okay with that?
Well, that's where you bring it to my point earlier, where like the Republicans, no matter what supposed principles they had before, and it shows that it doesn't matter. It's all subjective and they hold to it. I think that while there are examples of Democrats who also do the same thing, I think generally speaking the Democrats are usually the quicker to back off on something, and Republicans are more consistent. It's a reason why. How long have they been trying to change Roe versus Wade? Like
they finally got along with it
because they were consistent with it. Because it doesn't matter, they were pushing for it for that long. They just never gave up on it.
Go ahead.
And the thing I was gonna add to that is like, I just feel like the whole system. Obviously, I'm gonna say the obvious thing: the system is flawed, and the only way, and I'm a virtualist. I'm like over here like thinking like this is the simple way to do it, and I get that it'll never happen. So like I really don't disagree with a lot of that you're saying, Enrique. I think you're right. I think the way that we perceive a lot of this stuff has gone down in like rose colored glasses. You know what I mean? Like it's easier in hindsight to criticize and to complain and say this didn't work out or this was good and this was bad. But there's a difference between when you can see people are working for the people versus when they're working for their own specific agenda. One of the reasons why I specifically criticize Obama's reign so much is because I really truly felt like he was working for the people during the first term, and then second term he just flipped and was like, screw it, I'm all about myself.
Hey man, he had to cash out.
I get it, and you know what, at the end of the day, because the system is flawed, I don't really judge him for taking advantage of the system.
Yeah.
But because the system is flawed, I have to criticize him as a person who gets screwed by the system every day.
In a game of chess, your best way to win a game that mathematically, there are you can, if knowing where pieces are going, you can make a mathematical calculation and win. That's the reason why AI systems can beat human, and for a long time computers could be humans but humans are more crafty and they're able to sort of like circumvent certain rules. Anyways, long story short, in a game of chess, the idea is to capitalize on people's weaknesses and flaws, whatever the strategy is. I think part of the problem with Obama's fourth year or fifth year, second term, was that at that point the Senate was flipped. Basically, it became heavily conservative, right? And so they capitalized on a lot of the weaknesses of Obamacare. As flawed as it was a step in the right direction. They nerfed it to the point where it did become an albatross. Had Obamacare been put in the way it was meant to be put in, actually probably would have worked better. And ultimately, I mean, it's you can argue, but you can say that healthcare has gotten somewhat better because of it, but not by much. I'm not saying that it's better, but I'm just saying that objectively it has. But the way that like Obamacare was supposed to work was that it was supposed to create like these kind of marketplaces. It was supposed to inject some competition so the prices could go down. But, they kind of fucked with it. The way that insurances work, you know how there's some states that have marketplaces for insurance, but here in California, that such marketplace doesn't exist. Basically, that's what drives prices or whatever. Anyways.
But here's my issue.
Well, hold on. My point is this. Here's my point. No. My point is that in that fifth year, something like Obamacare and some of his other policies were suddenly in the hands of conservatives who made it their mission to stymie, to hold back any progress that Obama can, and they won at it. They won at it. They didn't have the culture wars in hand at the time. They do now, by the way. The culture wars are being won by conservatives. And that's a very interesting topic we can get into some other time. But essentially, part of the, whenever we talk about wokeism, because even someone like myself can rally against it, but that really generally is a term that conservatives have coined, right?
Wait.
But because of stuff like that, right now, conservatives own the culture wars, and when you own the culture wars, you own some of the mainstream because you have the zeitgeist, the consciousness of people. That's why things are very fragile right now. It's the reason why you can flip, between like how quickly Harris has gained popularity and Trump is kind of like, because right now there's a bit of a flipping, because right now the culture wars, while the conservatives are winning it, they're only barely winning it, and so that's how quickly you can sort of create this air of change around it. So that's the reason why I think people are really invigorated by Harris because of that. But I mean, that's just kind of how I feel. But go ahead, Doyle. Sorry.
I was gonna say the term woke comes from like black culture in the 90s,
right?
So like it wasn't a political thing. They stole it and they weaponized it to try to.
Wow,
you're making a point.
Someone's stealing from the black community again. Wow, shocker!
Look, you're right. 100%.
I'm looking at you, Eminem.
But it's the same thing with the word. Same thing with the word virtue signaling. I mean, the term virtue signaling came from a sociological paper that was was actually making the point for liberals, and in essence, when the conservatives took it over, that's exactly it. But the point is this: woke is a bad word, Doyle. Like there was a time when it actually really truly meant like it was a. I mean, if anything, it should be very offensive to the black community that the word woke was taken from in such a way and turned into such a bad word.
But see, that was
kind of why woke was supposed to mean that you guys are aware, your eyes are wide open. But now wokeism means when anything that you find offensive. That is more conservative versus that's more liberal versus conservative.
Precisely, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because underneath it all, we have these truths that are being lost because they are able to take what we had or what we meant, and they're able to weaponize it and this is what I personally think. Earlier you said I'm a cynic, and it's true. I am a cynic because I believe that one of the things that they do so well in politics is that they social engineer and that they are great at it. And it's one of the reasons, and I'm going to summarize that people believe, not me personally, but people believe that the assassination was a setup. The assassination of Trump? It might have been fake. And here's the reason why. Because there's a lot of little details about like how long the shooter had been there. This guy just barely missed his ear.
Two shots actually. One shot, like there's one that goes to hit the ear, and then the other one that missed him by a little. That's crazy.
I'll inject after that. Go ahead.
Look, I understand where people are coming from who think that it may have been fabricated, not fake, like it didn't happen, but like set up like it was supposed to happen. I understand where those people are coming from. I'm not going to give it whether or not I'm on either side of that. I'm just summarizing it because just in general, that social engineering, I could see how that could be social engineered. It would totally sway the voters in his favor, and that might be the point.
Except here's the problem with that, is that the reason why it hasn't caught on like wildfire is because nobody can agree on this guy's slant. Right now, there's a lot of competing sort of like there's a conspiracy is being said. Right,
he left no manifesto. He left nothing. So how can you tell?
Left and right, yeah, right. And so like I think Joe Rogan had said something along the lines with another guy about how that this is how the FBI would set up an assassination, which historically they said there's proof that it's happened before.
Yeah.
And the way that you line up a guy who is like a nobody,
You feed him.
who you turn him, you give him opportunity, and then he becomes your idiot patsy. And by all accounts, this guy could be. But here's the
The
thing,
Manchurian candidate.
But here's the thing: like what people can't agree on is, well, did Trump like hire this guy to do
No.
it, or was it like truly like a FBI thing? And no one can agree with this. So right now, no one's holding on to it. Fox isn't making that narrative, not really, and neither, because it's in the favor of Trump to have been tried assassin. Hold on, and it's not in the favor of the left to say that he might have been through FBI. So no one's talking about it.
Okay, but that's the point, and that's exactly what I want to blow wide open for everyone who doesn't understand social engineering. Where's all that information coming from? The media. Who controls and owns the media? The same politicians have influence over the owners of the media groups and can influence the media groups in the same way. So the narrative of what is being said and what they're speaking about comes from the media.
Okay, but here's the thing now. But look at it this way. Okay, who's benefiting from this? On one hand, if it was the FBI who created the assassination attempt and the guy really truly failed and botched it, then egg on the FBI's face for failing, because in the end Trump was invigorated and was almost handed the presidency. Okay. On the other hand, if it was Trump who like orchestrated this and he won, well then kudos on him. Why isn't the left then suddenly like blowing the horns on this? And nobody can figure that out. Nothing's catching. So I'm gonna tell you what, they keep on bringing it up on the right, just to sort of like remind people that Trump survived this, and they're trying to sell the God chosen perspective. But when it comes down to it, honestly, like people have been bored of it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Well, it comes down to training day. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. You can say what you want, and we could be absolutely right about a lot of our conspiracies on the show, but if we can't prove it, then what good does it do? So, I mean, it doesn't do either side good. I mean, who knows if voter fraud was a real thing? Because no one
It wasn't.
could prove
Oh,
it.
bro!
It wasn't.
No. There
one could
was
prove
no.
it.
No.
Let me just I let
No,
you
they
guys
can. They
control
can
this a little too much. Let me
100%.
just say a couple of things real quick. One,
Oh, you let us control it too much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Go for it, I want to hear it.
Well, because Enrique was like fucking talking and cutting you off every 5 seconds. But anyway,
Was I?
look, how's that? Okay, so first, these are the top 5 U.S. political parties as of now. Okay, number 1 place, Democratic Party. Oh man. Number 2, Republican Party. Then it's the Libertarian Party, then the Green Party, and then the Constitution Party with 128,914 members. That's just weird. Second of all, I lost the other train of thought because you guys are going off on so much tangents about politics. I knew I was going to get...
Tangents. You brought this stupid topic up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted
But you
it.
get so angry. Fuck Biden, fuck Trump, fuck Kamala, ding dong. Fuck politics. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So this was a short one because we got to go. We're at Undercity and we got to be nice to our hosts. Enrique, any final thoughts?
No.
Doyle.
The Jedi are not the bad guys. Go to www.ouchcast.com. Get a t-shirt.
Or a mug. Or a
We need
sticker.
it. We're poor.
Mug
Please.
these, bitch.
Come on. Enrique needs anger management.
Control? Kiss my ass, bro.
Hold on a minute. I'll let you finish right now. Anyway, just remember, no matter what party you are on, rock and roll. And that's all I got to say. And remember, never make eye contact while eating fucking Enrique's penis. Good night, everybody. Good night.